On this Friday night, two 13-year-olds are charged with assault for beating up their teacher. The attack caught on video and shared online.
I have no transition plan from a Friday to a Monday for clients who are depending on this service. It was really tough.
Concerns tonight over the provincial government's plan to cut the number of supervised injection sites in Toronto. And they've been singing happy birthday for almost a century. We'll take you to a milestone birthday celebration. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. Two Toronto students have been charged with assaulting their teacher inside their classroom. It happened at Lord Dufferin Junior and Senior Public School last Monday, and there is video of the attack showing a group of students punching their teacher during the class. Farah Morali has more on this exclusive story.
The video starts with pushing and shoving. The teacher yells what sounds like, "Get off of me." That's when things turn violent. Three students appear to target the teacher, throwing punches and objects at him before the fight pours into the hallway. This video has been circulating on social media since last week and is currently posted on the World Star Hip Hop website. It now has more than 300,000 views and thousands of comments. Today, the Toronto District School Board confirmed the incident happened here, inside the walls of Lord Dufferin Public School. Parents and guardians of children who go here say they're in disbelief.
It's really crazy because you wouldn't think that would go on in a school, especially like this, because I used to go here too and nothing like that happened before. So in my mind, it is crazy.
They ganged up on him, so I don't know. It's just it's hard to, because when you're the teacher and you're trying to, manage the class, then it's very difficult to when they kind of just go on their own.
The man sustained non-life-threatening injuries as a result of this assault.
Toronto police have confirmed they were called to the school last Tuesday.
It's been alleged that two 13-year-old boys got into an altercation where a man was assaulted. As of Monday of this week, the two 13-year-old boys surrendered to police and both have been charged with one count of assault.
The TDSB wouldn't confirm more details today, only issuing a statement which said, quote, "We are deeply concerned about the events seen in the video, which took place at the beginning of last week. Toronto police were notified and are investigating. The TDSB has followed its procedures in responding to this incident, and while we can't speak to any specific disciplinary action, in general, physical assault can result in suspension and possible expulsion under the Education Act." As you heard there, the TDSB is not confirming what kind of disciplinary action these two boys will face here at Lord Dufferin School. We do know they've been charged under the Youth Criminal Justice Act because they are so young. They were charged and released on Monday and are expected to appear in court sometime within the next 6 weeks. Farah Morali, CBC News, Toronto.
Public health officials in both York Region and Toronto both warning about a possible measles exposure at Vaughan Mills Shopping Centre earlier this month. They have confirmed a case of the virus in an adult who contracted the infection in another country. Health officials say anyone at the mall on March 20th from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. may have been exposed. And a convicted sex offender is back behind bars following an outcry over her arrival in Brampton. Peel police say Madeline Harks, who was previously known as Matthew Harks, was arrested today. They say Correctional Services Canada issued a warrant of suspension that revoked her long-term supervision order. It's not clear why Harks' supervision order was suspended. Police say no charges have been laid against Harks, who was convicted of 3 sexual assaults against young children. Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown had complained to Canada's Public Safety Minister about Harks being placed in his city. Well, here's a live look from our Harbour Cam tonight. A special weather statement is in effect for the City of Toronto for significant rainfall starting tonight and into Saturday. We could see as much as 25 millimeters. Colette Kennedy's here with the first look at the forecast. You know, Colette, the last few days we have used such pleasant words to describe the weather. Sunny, nice, pleasant. I'm afraid of the words I see behind you on the screen right now.
Yes, I thought I had to spell it out for everyone in terms of what we could see with this next system that's going to be moving through. So the components: Snow, rain, and yes, even freezing rain coming into southern Ontario, having an impact on all of us. So we'll go in for a closer look, and I'm going to lose these words here so we can concentrate more on the contours here of what's going to be happening. But just know that overnight tonight through the GTA, rain developing, freezing rain to the north, and north of that, it's looking like some wet snow. Light for tonight, but things will change as we get a little further into the weekend. By Saturday, as we're going through the day, still mostly a rain event, even north of the 407. Beyond that, though, freezing rain warnings over towards the east, towards the Ottawa Valley if you're doing any traveling. And then on the backside, we'll see some breaks into Saturday evening in the precipitation, but then getting into a wintry mix coming back in Saturday night into Sunday, and maybe even a little bit of light accumulation of wet snow even into the city and across the GTA as this moves out, and then starting to improve as we get a little bit later in the day on Sunday, but cold air will be in place behind the system. So big changes that we'll be seeing. Overnight tonight, 2 degrees with those rain showers developing, and then tomorrow just 6 degrees with that rain through the day. In terms of how much rain, how much snow, I'll break that down further a little later in the show, Mike.
Okay, thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
Monday is April Fool's Day, but this is no joke. Gas prices are going up.
In fact, at the stroke of midnight, gas stations like this right across the GTA will increase by 5 cents net a litre.
Now, the reason for the price hike is the federal government's carbon tax taking effect. And McTagg says there's another increase coming in about a week. That's when suppliers switch from winter to summer blend gas. That'll add another 5 cents a litre to the cost. Well, there is strong reaction tonight to the province's new plan to fight opioid overdoses. It includes funding for 15 supervised injection sites, but that is actually down from the 21 that are currently licensed. And it means Toronto will lose 3 locations. As Adrian Chung tells us, frontline workers, health officials, even Mayor Tory are slamming the plan as short-sighted.
When we turn people away, it won't be to other sites. It will be to alleys, it'll be to parks, it'll be to public washrooms. Yeah, it's really troubling.
By next week, that's what many at supervised injection sites will be facing after the province announced a plan that will close 3 major sites in Toronto.
It's about more than just saving people's lives. It's about connecting with people in a real, honest way.
The works at Yonge and Dundas, a supervised injection site run by Toronto Public Health, won't get provincial funding. In the past year and a half, it's helped reverse overdoses from fentanyl and other drugs 748 times.
Healthcare sites that exist to save lives are being told at 3:30 p.m. on a Friday that they cannot open Monday morning. And the clients who use those sites, lives will be at risk.
Mayor John Tory also weighed in, saying this announcement that leaves Toronto Public Health's Victoria Street site in limbo and appears to close 2 other sites in the city is extremely disturbing, particularly because it came with no advance warning or communication from the province. I intend to register my strong concern with provincial government officials. But not all supervised injection sites are being closed. The province's addiction plans will still fund 6 locations in Toronto as part of a 10-year addiction and mental health plan. Officials like the Ontario Medical Association say the evidence is in that overdose prevention sites save lives, but longtime advocates say it's not nearly enough for a growing crisis.
It's honestly a level of callousness that I didn't expect and didn't think was possible.
Sarah Ovens was part of the team that helped open the city's first overdose prevention site in Moss Park and says blood will be on the province's hands.
If they cared at all, if these people lived or died, it's on them to do anything to show that.
For now, all sites have been granted an emergency exemption from the federal government, which means police will not arrest those trying to stop overdoses. But without provincial funding, it's not known how long they can last.
A report from Adrian Chung. Well, a Toronto filmmaker is speaking out tonight after her latest film was dropped from the Beijing International Film Festival just days after being selected. Now, she says the political tensions between Canada and China were behind the change. Makta Gabriselassie has that story.
Filmmaker Maya Donofsky is taking on some serious topics in the movie In God I Trust.
And it focuses on racism and guns in the U.S.
Stop!
Her film was accepted into the Beijing International Film Festival. But just weeks before she was set to go, they pulled back their invitation.
They actually really loved the movie, and they've said this in a couple of emails. So it has nothing to do with the film, it has nothing to do with the content. They specifically said it was because of political reasons.
This is the most recent email she received just today. It's not the film itself that has political problems, it's going abroad. I'm sure you've heard of Huawei. The arrest of that company's CFO by Canadian authorities continues to be at the root of tense times between China and Canada. Never did this filmmaker think she would get caught up in the mix.
So I put my heart and soul into making this movie, and I had no idea that because of political problems between countries that it would stop me from showcasing my film to an audience.
An associate professor with the Munk School of Global Affairs says she's not surprised by this.
They do not want to be seen as doing anything that may defy central orders, because they want to protect their own positions, right? Otherwise, they might be punished if this is seen as an act of defiance.
Are you still holding out hope that they might change their mind?
I don't think they're going to change their mind. I honestly don't think they're going to accept any Canadian films from Canada at the Beijing International Film Festival.
So we've reached out to the Beijing International Film Festival, the Chinese consulate, and the embassy, and we're waiting to hear back. In the meantime, this filmmaker is moving on. She's now off to the Beverly Hills Film Festival. Magda Gebrselassie, CBC News, Toronto.
You can be sitting here in the winter or in the back garden and you just hear a huge bang and you know that it's a hit.
Residents in this neighborhood say trucks are constantly crashing into this low bridge. Coming up, we'll introduce you to one woman who's documented every accident over the last year and is asking for change.
Well, I would like it to stop for the sake of everybody, but I don't really know how.
Well, you probably remember this video. A BC man accused of stripping naked and jumping into a large shark tank at Ripley's Aquarium last year. Well, he's set to stand trial in September. Crown and defense lawyers agreed on the date during a brief court hearing today. 37-year-old David Weaver faces a total of 3 charges for skinny dipping, which was, of course, caught on video, and an alleged assault at a downtown Toronto. Well, it is loud, it creates a lot of mess, and it keeps happening. Residents in the annex say they are dealing with a nightmare neighbor, a particularly low rail bridge. No matter how many signs are added to alert drivers of its height, trucks are constantly smashing into the Howlands Avenue Bridge. Now, to prove just how bad it is, one woman decided to start documenting the incidents. Taylor Simmons sat down with her.
April there were 2, May there were, I don't know, 3.
For almost 2 decades, Morag Carlson has listened to dozens of thunderous crashes from trucks hitting a low underpass just outside her home.
You can be sitting here in the winter or in the back garden and you just hear a huge bang and you know that it's a hit. Even although the hit is loud, some of them back up and drive off. And so the whole thing is over in 2 or 3 minutes. But then there are what I call the big hits.
Missing the signage, lights, and warnings, some trucks end up stuck under the bridge or ripped open.
I would like it to stop for the sake of everybody.
CBC Toronto spoke to Carlson after a particularly bad accident last March. She said crashes at the bridge happened all the time, and that day she started a record to prove it. By her count, there's been 35 crashes since last March. Toronto police have recorded 5. How do people usually respond when you bring this to them and say there's been 35 in 1 year?
Well, everybody gasps.
The city's transportation department says they adjusted signage in 2018, but the sign you see in this footage from last year is now gone. Residents say nothing's helped.
I'm not kidding you that we probably see 3 or 4 crashes like a month. And this is a very kind of big blue-collar thoroughfare as well, DuPont Street. So you do get massive trucks going back and forth. They should do something about it.
We spoke to the local councillor's office. They say they are aware of the complaints and are looking at changing signage or even putting a bigger slope in the roadway. But we spoke to an expert who says there may be some easier solutions.
It could be something as simple as an overhead sign that can be hanging similar to something you'd see in an underground parking garage. That wouldn't do any damage to a truck that were to hit it. It would alert the truck driver that they're not going to make it.
Still, this truck driving instructor says it's up to the person behind the wheel to pay attention.
Usually you plan the route and then you have a backup route on any job, anywhere, anytime. You know, especially with trucks, they're not toys.
The owner of the bridge, Canadian Pacific Railway, says they do a safety inspection after every reported accident, but they wouldn't say how many they've done this year or if they've done repairs. Taylor Simmons, CBC News, Toronto.
Happy birthday to you. A milestone celebration. I'm Greg Ross at the Shepherd Village Seniors Community, where 11 residents, all between the ages of 95 and 107, celebrated birthdays today. They even had some cake. Good. We'll have their story coming up.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Matt Shoemaker on the mound, making his Blue Jays debut in Game 2 against the Tigers. Solid start. He would not allow a base runner until the 4th inning. Bottom of the 4th, the Jays get on board. 2 on for Hernandez. He fires a shot up the middle to score Randall Grichuk. Now still in this inning, bases loaded for Freddie Galvi. He rips it to center field, but Mickey Matuk bobbles the pickup. All 3 runners come to score. Toronto holds on to get its first win of the season with a 6-0 shutout. And Denis Shapovalov going up against his childhood hero Roger Federer in the Miami Open tonight, looking to advance after fellow Canadian teenager Felix Auger-Aliassime lost this afternoon. It was a tough start for Shapovalov. Federer gets the break when he sends a shot up, and away there. Federer up 2-1. He would take the first set 6-2. Second set, Shap finds a spark, reaching up for the volley, and it falls right into the corner. He is pumped. However, Federer was just too tough, taking the second set 6-4, advancing to the finals. Colette's back with her extended forecast. I remember talking to you and we said March was coming in like a frozen lamb. It's going out like a really messy lion.
It is. It is making its presence known as we exit this month and come into the weekend. So much to break down for you. Let's start off with, I just want to point out that at this point, the warnings, seeing those, and this is a freezing rain warning off to the east, so this is outside of the GTA for sure, but it being the weekend, I want you to know about that. I also want you to know that there's a chance of some freezing rain as the system moves in overnight tonight, so there are special weather statements in place north of the GTA into Cottage Country because of that, and also because of the freezing rain, but some heavier snowfall possible the further north and east that you go, maybe by Sunday, 10 to 15 centimeters. So this is quite the system as it's stacking up and moving in. So as it comes through in the overnight tonight, we see that rain developing. We go in for a closer look. When you get into some of the colder air or warmer air overriding colder air at the surface, the freezing rain through the overnight into tomorrow morning, that will continue to push eastward. North of that will be the snowfall, mostly a rain event and some significant rain for the GTA, but on the back side of this, so into Saturday evening, we get some breaks in precipitation. On the back side as that northwesterly wind kicks in and colder air and some residual moisture, we're looking at the risk of even getting a dusting of some wet snow, possibly even a few centimeters into the city and around the GTA and around towards the southern points of the Golden Horseshoe. And now some of the models wanting to show over 30 millimeters of rainfall. You can see as this moves through, I do think we'll see some periods of heavier rain at least into Saturday, but I think those models are going a little heavy. I also think that the snowfall models going a little bit heavy here, but you could say 1 to 3 centimeters or so for Toronto. Again, very wet stuff, probably melting and not really sticking around, but that potential as you're getting up on Sunday morning. And overnight tonight, 3 degrees in southwestern Ontario, mostly a rain event here, freezing line a little further towards the north, 6 to 7 with the rain continuing into Saturday. And overnight tonight through the GTA, the risk of freezing rain, Markham, Newmarket, anywhere further north from that, even better chance. Tomorrow afternoon, highs of 4 to 6 degrees. That'll be late afternoon into the early evening hours before we reach that, with southwesterly winds coming into the afternoon and then those winds turning to the northwest. So looking at a mix, a wintry mix into Sunday morning, and then some wet flurries still possible. 2 degrees the high that day. And then we get to go into April, and next week it's looking pretty good with the temperatures climbing each day, and that's when we get our sunshine. It's just not going to be around so much for our weekend, Mike.
All right. Thanks a lot, Colette.
No problem.
Well, before we go tonight, we have a story about a group of people who have heard the birthday song for almost a century. And today they were honored in the Shepherd Village senior community. Greg Ross was there to celebrate along with them.
Happy birthday to you.
This was no ordinary birthday celebration.
Happy birthday to you.
These residents at Shepherd Village Senior Community who were celebrating recent birthdays are all over the age of 95.
107, ladies and gentlemen.
It's almost hard to believe that in 3 days, Olive Meyer will be 107 years old.
I feel great.
You look great. She says the key to staying young is
eating healthy.
There to celebrate with her, her 83-year-old son, Wade. He's just a young whippersnapper.
I guess we've inherited some good genes.
And he says he also inherited his mother's sense of humor.
When she was young, I remember she always played tricks on people.
Joyce Warren, who turned 97 in January, says a lot has changed since she was a little girl. Do you have an iPhone?
Are you kidding? I've got a dial phone. I love it.
Sharing in the festivities, this young couple in their 80s, not there for a birthday though.
Happy anniversary to you.
They recently celebrated their 62nd wedding anniversary, and they had plenty of wisdom to share on having a long marriage.
Well, the secret, I guess you have to keep a smile even when it hurts.
I feel like a teenager.
77-year-old Norm Kelly, who was a city councillor in Toronto for 25 years, says there are some lessons to be learned from the guests of honor at this party.
Age, in many respects, is more than, you know, your physical body. It's what's up here.
It was a head table that has lived through history that most of us can only read about in books.
They have a wealth of life that they have lived, that they have shared.
The next birthday celebration at Shepherd Village will be in September, with dozens more over the age of 95 being celebrated. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
One milestone after another. Congratulations to all of them, and happy birthday, of course. Well, looking ahead to Monday on CBC Radio, Danny Elfman is Tom Power's guest on Q. He's talking not just about the work he's done composing for TV shows like The Simpsons or most of Tim Burton's movies, but his latest challenge, composing classical music. It's a special extended interview Monday starting at 10. I'll see you again on Monday night at 11. Maribel Taruk is here tomorrow. Have a great weekend.